our council's work session. Prior to our meeting, we did hold an executive session to discuss property matters. With that, let us do roll call, please.
Councilmember Shimoleski.
Present.
Councilmember Cerna.
Here.
Councilmember Barton.
Here.
Councilmember Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Fry will note as absent. Vice President Kingsley. President Sokolowski.
Here.
And Mayor Aronson.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this evening we've got a lot of presentations, so exciting stuff. We have Shauna Weissel will come up to the podium, and Shauna, if you don't mind introducing a new employee we have in the borough.
Hi, everybody. Good evening.
Hello.
This is Crystal Ramos. She is joining the Operations and Emergency Management team. We had felt a strong need to open up a position with our new stormwater initiative, and Crystal has been helping not only with that, but with everything since she has started here. We were recommended Crystal by an existing employee, Ernesto, who we all know and love, and we believe very strongly in that sort of personal recommendation. And if one of our people that we have great work from can put forward someone else, that's a really, really good testament to their character and their work ethic, and that has proven beyond true in this case. So, Crystal, welcome.
Thank you. Nice meeting everyone.
Thank you, Shauna, and welcome, Crystal. We're happy to have you, and I'm sure we'll be doing great things together over the next year or two, and beyond, quite frankly. All right, next up on the agenda is a presentation on Hope Card program for domestic violence survivors. We have our county prothonotary, Noah Marlier, here, and it looks like you've brought someone with you to talk about the program.
Yes, Madam President, this is my outreach director, Ann Cornell, and I just want to thank you for having us. I want to thank the mayor and all of council for having me here this evening. My name is Noah Marlier, and I'm your Montgomery County prothonotary. I think I know most of you, if not all of you. I'm here tonight to talk to you about a program that I'm really, really excited about, a couple different initiatives, both having to do with domestic violence here in Montgomery County, specifically trying to help domestic violence survivors. So your first test was passed. Your president got the pronunciation of prothonotary correct, so I think she deserves a lot of credit. Just a reminder of what the Montgomery County prothonotary is. It is a county-wide elected position. I am in my second term as your prothonotary. You might remember when you had up for election last year, your sheriff and your DA and your commissioners. You also were voting on your prothonotary, and you may not have known that when you went to the ballot because you were seated on there. A little bit about the office. This is where you would file legal papers for the county. Not criminal matters, that's your clerk of courts, it's another county-wide elected position, but almost all civil matters get filed in the Montgomery County Prothonotary's office. So before folks get to see a judge oftentimes, before they maybe even hire an attorney, they want to file a legal paper. Maybe they're getting divorced, file that legal paper in the Prothonotary's office. Maybe they're wanting to change their name, they may file a petition in my office to change their name. They might be getting evicted from their home. A neighbor of yours is getting evicted by the local district judge. They can appeal that eviction through the county courts through my office. And one of my departments, the one specific department we have, is the PFA department, Protection from Abuse. You would know them more commonly as restraining orders. And the only reason we all call them restraining orders is because that's what they're called in California. And of course, most of the movies are made there. So in the movies, they're called restraining orders. But in many states, they're called protection from abuse, and they are here in Pennsylvania. So as you can see up on the screen, in my protection from abuse department, we receive 30 to 50 petitions a week. 30 to 50, sometimes 10 to 20 to 25 a day. This is folks from all over the county. This isn't just in one municipality or two municipalities. It just isn't affecting people that are more impoverished or one demographic over another, but I will say oftentimes it is women being abused by a boyfriend or their husband. Oftentimes they have children in tow. Sometimes when they come to my office, they have black and blue fresh on their face from being abused. And I am so proud of the work that my office does in assisting these folks. We're not lawyers, I'm a lawyer, but my PFA analysts are not attorneys. They can't give legal advice, but they walk these folks through the process of petitioning for a PFA. Walk them through the process before they go see a judge. So my goal as a countywide elected official, and again, I know most of you, and I think I can speak confidently that this is your goal as well, is to help people in this county, for me, this borough for you, that need help the most. And I think people that are being abused in a domestic violence situation are people that need help the most in our county. So we have two initiatives that I am so proud of. The first one that I wanted to talk to you about is our Hope Card program. This is first of its kind here in Pennsylvania. It's only being done by a couple of states out in the West. Washington State actually passed a law that Hope Cards need to go out the way we're doing them in Washington State in every county. That's not really the way to do it. I've spoken to some folks in Washington State that are really struggling to implement this because every county is different. And some counties have the infrastructure to be able to do this, others do not. Here in Montgomery County we did, and we started this program. What it is this. When you get a protection from abuse, you get a temporary PFA, and then you go back before the judge and have a full-blown hearing within 10 days, and you get a final PFA. When you get that final PFA, protection from abuse, my office mails that to you. And along with that, we're now mailing a letter from myself, along with a Hope Card. And what the Hope Card is instead of having an order like this is the PFA order, example. And it's many pages long sometimes, it has a lot of information on there. And folks, they get this PFA order and they put it in their glove compartment, they put it in a lockbox, they keep it at home in a file drawer, but it's not easy to have on your person. The Hope Card is the pertinent information from this final PFA reduced down to a credit card sized document. So someone who's surviving domestic violence who has that PFA, they can have that Hope Card in their wallet, they can have it in their purse, they can have it on the person. So if they're walking down the street in Conshohocken and they have a final PFA against their boyfriend and he's stalking them through the streets, they can go right up to a police officer and say, "Officer, I have a Hope Card, please, I have a PFA against this man, can you help?" And it's easy, it's accessible, and I think it's going to help the law enforcement as well. We worked with the district attorney, Kevin Steele, to make sure that the police departments were on board with this. We presented to the Police Chiefs Association. So the police will know what the Hope Card is, and they can look up the information much easier than previously when someone wouldn't necessarily be carrying around their PFA with them. So I think it helps law enforcement, and I'd like to think it helps survivors as well. Hopefully just at a minimum giving them some confidence that they have their protection right on them at all times. So that's our Hope Card program. Secondly, and I'm so very proud of this, prior to February of this year, if someone was being abused in their home and they needed a PFA, they would have to drive to Norristown. And from Conchi, that's not that far. But I'm talking the whole county. Someone from Pottstown, from Lansdale would have to go all the way to Norristown, get there by noon. They would be there all day long. Go to court administration, fill out the PFA packet, come to my office, have that information uploaded to the state system, go to court for their hearing, come back to my office to upload information, go to the sheriff's department, have that PFA temporary PFA served. It's a long, tedious, daunting, scary process. Again, oftentimes women with children in the courthouse that are seeking help. So we thought if we could cut down on that time in any way, 30 minutes, an hour and a half, how fantastic would that be to make the process just a little bit easier? So starting in February, folks can start the process electronically. So they can fill out the initial packet that typically previously they had to come into court administration to fill out, come to Norristown, come to the courthouse to fill out. They can do that from anywhere with an internet connection. And we are seeing that this is cutting down on how long these folks have to be in the courthouse by an hour, hour and a half. And what a difference that would make to that survivor. To not have to be in the courthouse as long as 6-7 hours. So those are the two initiatives that we have come up with this year, or launched this year. I'm so very proud of them. I want everyone to know about it because we all know domestic violence survivors. We do. There are neighbors, there are family, there are friends, and if we can get this information out to folks, that there is help here in Montgomery County, I think it's really important. And I think it starts with local elected officials like you, people who are respected in the community, your neighbors respect you, the residents respect you, and I really hope that you'll take this information out to the good folks in Conshohocken. And I'll take any questions.
I have a few questions for you. So, in particular with the Hope Card program, when did you start that?
Yeah, we started it this year, and one thing I failed to mention, I think this is really important, it started really as an idea over coffee with Councilwoman Karen Bramlin from Plymouth. And she and I were having coffee right up here on Ridge Pike in Panera, and that's where all the best ideas happen. And she had this idea, she'd heard of it, she'd read about it, being done out in the western part of the country. And that was only about a year and a half ago. And then earlier this year, we launched it.
How many cards do you think you've given out so far?
So, final PFAs, so we have 30 to 50 people coming in for PFAs in a week, but that's not the amount of final PFAs. Oftentimes, people will say, you know what, I'm not going to go through with the process, or they start it and stop. So I would say it's certainly less than that, but I would say probably a dozen a week, but I can get you those numbers.
Yeah, curious. So I do have one more question. What's being done, I'm looking at Chief Lennon, what's being done or what can we help you with to educate our police officers about these cards?
And I'll just jump in real quick before the chief. I'll say,
Yeah.
we presented to the Police Chiefs Association. That was once a number of months ago. Part of what I'm trying to do is make sure, going around all these municipalities, knowing that the police chiefs will be at these meetings, just to have that second touch, just in case it hasn't disseminated down to all the police force.
Because I think we, not to speak for everyone else, if we can help you, help get our police officers educated on this program, I think that would be better. Okay.
And this is what I believe I can do, is reaching out to you. Kevin Steele is the chief law enforcement officer of the county. You know, I leave it in his capable hands to make sure that all his departments continue to know about this. But this is what I'm trying to do, just for that purpose, exactly.
Okay. It's a terrible necessity, but thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Just a curiosity question, sorry.
I just want to piggyback off of what Alan had said. For every final PFA, do you guys send them out automatically? Is that okay? So there's okay. That's why I just wanted to double check and make sure
so
that
not
I
the
understood
temporary
that.
PFAs.
Right.
Because someone will get a temporary PFA, a few days later they'll withdraw. That does happen, it happens. So this is for the final PFA. Whenever my office is required legally to send out those orders, so along with that order comes the letter and the home card.
Okay, great.
No, I think mine is more a kind of a process curiosity question. So those that don't go to final PFA, they withdraw on their own. That's a vulnerable population that then they choose to go about this themselves. Is there anything that we in Montgomery County do to keep them on a list of some sort to check in with them, or do we refer them to some type of support? Like, do we connect all those dots for those folks who, for whatever reason in their life, they've chosen to step away, but they probably still are very vulnerable?
Yeah, it's a great question. So from a legal perspective, they've withdrawn the temporary PFA. So for my office, certainly it would be inappropriate to stand with them. But I will say this. On the back of the Hope card, I didn't mention this, but on the front of the Hope card is the pertinent information from the final PFA. Not all the information, but the pertinent stuff. The PFAD number so the officers can look it up very quickly. On the back are resources. The Women's Center, Laurel House, Victim Services Center of Montgomery County. And so to answer your question, that's on the card, but we promote those services all the time. and I am collaborating with those organizations all the time. In fact, the electronic petition, that was Laurel House saying, please do this. Our folks, the women that we help, they need this. They need to be able to start the petition. We need to cut down the time that they're in court. So that came from a conversation with Laurel House, but I'm collaborating with them nonstop. Those are the organizations that my office does promote. So anyone walking in gets that literature or could get that literature, and even if they withdraw the temporary PFA, we still have that literature. Hopefully they have those phone numbers.
Yeah, I know that privacy is a big part of all of that, and we can't solicit, for lack of a better word, but if the stuff is available. Thank you.
Does this also work with the elderly? Does this also work for the elderly?
Elder abuse?
Yeah, so number one, we send a hope. We do see folks that are elderly coming in for PFAs. But I also believe that is something that is kind of a very quiet problem and very, even more private than domestic violence by its nature is behind closed doors, right? When it's elder abuse, you have the added issues of shame, of folks maybe not having the wherewithal to be able to get the help. So one of the things we've done in my office is I go out and I present to the senior adult activity centers throughout the county. We've been to Ambler, Norristown.
Yes, we also went to Meadowood and Worcester for the senior community. Yep.
That's right, Meadowood in Worcester.
So you hit Mercy in Norristown?
I don't think we've been there.
I don't think we've been to
We've been to the senior adult activity center at least twice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the presentation that we give is on elder abuse generally. And what I've done is I've collaborated, I'm spearheading it, but I brought in the detectives, county detectives, to talk about elder abuse, a district attorney to talk about it, and bring in Lucy Q from the Senior Law Center comes in and talks about it from her perspective as a lawyer. And we kind of give a presentation, and I talk about domestic violence and PFAs. And we give it like a 45-minute presentation. We've been doing that for the last 3 years.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Can you talk about the people who withdraw the PFA, temporary, so some of them are very vulnerable? Do any of them ever come back and file against the same person again?
Quite often. So the question was, do people come back? They withdraw their PFA, do they come back at a later date? And that does happen. Oftentimes people get scared. Right? They come to Norristown, it's the courthouse, they're about to have a hearing. It's intimidating. And I can't take away that intimidation. I can't make it easy for them. We're trying to make it easier. And, but yes, oftentimes folks will withdraw the PFA and come back.
Actually, jumping off that, as far as ease, your office has a very engaging digital presence. Can you talk to anyone here and watching at home how they can get in touch with your office on social media?
Sure. So we do a newsletter. Just see the mayor's newsletter and how fantastic that is. We do a monthly newsletter that you can sign up for. How can they do that again?
They can come to our website and they can go to the notify process. We actually have a link that says sign up for our newsletter, and also any email alerts. So anything about the office or press releases that we send out to the public, you can be on the email list for that. So that's in the rail.
So you can get on the newsletter by going to our website. You can also follow us on Facebook, Prothonotary, Protho, Notary, Noah Marlier. You can follow us on Instagram, and we're on Threads.
We are. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Council, any other questions? Well, thank you very much for the presentation, and what a great program we have in our county, and to be able to serve our residents is really what we're in this for, and to see results is great. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Take care.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a presentation from the EAC. I'll invite Justin Claffey and Tim Beckel up to the podium to talk to us about the local climate action plan that we've been working on. the Jeopardy music. Make people nervous. You nervous, Britt?
No. I'm going to work.
She knows what she's doing.
Actually.
While we're waiting, I'll address the elephant in the room. Justin and I did not plan this.
I thought it was the EAC uniform.
Normally I wear green, but
I was going to say, it's usually the Sprout, but this one's good.
a 2-month-old, soiled the green shirt, so I had to go with the blue.
Oh, my.
All right. Good to see you all again. So we're here back again to talk about the Local Climate Action Program, LCAP. I think we were here early in the year, April or May. We had just completed phase 1 of LCAP. Now we've completed phase 2, so I thought it's a good time to give you an update on where things stand. And don't worry, I'll remind you of what phase 1 and phase 2 are. Just as a high-level kind of reminder, so LCAP is a program funded by the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, where municipalities can partner with Penn State Sustainability to work on their climate goals, in particular, get information and data about their greenhouse gas emissions, and find out ways to reduce them or work on their climate goals. I should say that this has been something that the EAC has been focused on and thinking about for really a number of years. And finally, last year, we entered the program. Justin and I have spent a lot of time personally. Basically, I think we've been meeting on a weekly basis, more or less, for the last year or so. So putting a lot of time and energy into it. And want to also thank you all for your support and borough administration, because there's no taxpayer dollars going out the door, which is good, but we needed some help and collaboration and data requests from the borough, which we've received. It's really helped make the process smooth. So thank you all.
And we were told we were like one of the easiest boroughs to work with. And that's as far as getting information, which Sean was a big help in, and things of that nature. So, yeah, thanks again.
We're kind of winding down, and we're actually using Calvin Lee as our Penn State student, our collaborator. We're winding down with him over the next couple of weeks, but we're actually using his presentation. He presented his phase 2 findings back to the EAC back in May of this year. So we're borrowing from him. It's been great to work with him. Again, it's been a really great process, and I think a lot of benefit is coming to the borough from doing it. Again, so I mentioned phase 1 and phase 2. It's basically the fall semester and the winter semester is how they break it down. So phase 1 is a greenhouse gas emission inventory. So really gathering the data for what the emissions are in our community. That's not just municipal buildings. That's the whole community, businesses, residents, and then also government emissions. Then phase 2 had a little more flexibility. Some communities do kind of the bare bones or skeleton outline of a local climate action plan. We chose to focus on potential greenhouse gas emission reduction strategies based on the findings for phase 1. And what Calvin used was a forecasting tool, forecasting model that's provided as part of the program. We talked about this back in April or May, but so as a reminder of what our results, what our inventory is as a community, 57,000 metric tons of CO2 equivalent emissions, mainly focused on residential and commercial energy. So Justin will get into this in a minute, but that's where we focus our reduction strategies, given these are the sectors that are showing the most emissions. And just as a reminder of our community goals, so back in 2019, Conshohocken Borough Council passed the Ready for 100 resolution, which set climate and carbon emission reduction goals. So 100% clean and renewable electricity by 2035, and then 100% clean, renewable energy across the board by 2050. And we use these stated goals as part of our forecasting process. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Justin to continue.
Thank you. So the findings and the reduction strategies that we did to capture that, the big one on the commercial side was green power purchasing, as well as the residential side, which we can dive into in a little bit. For anyone that doesn't know what green power purchasing is, it's essentially still being on the grid as we are with PICO, but instead of that power coming from coal and other crude oil and fossil fuels, it would come from renewable sources such as solar, wind, etc. So that was the biggest one. Residentially, electrification and heat pumps, which kind of blends in with that. If the grid is green and houses are electrified, obviously your footprint is less compared to what a lot of people have, which is the oil or gas heating, things of that nature currently. So those are two of the big ones. As far as transportation, EV replacement was a number 3 for that. ClearPath, I'm going to kind of skim through this. This is the program that Calvin used in order to put that baseline together, ClearPath and ICLEI, and this again is what we showed earlier in the year. This is business as usual forecasting, so all the different things, commercial energy, residential energy, transportation, etc. And if we continue on the path we're at, the dotted line there is what our goals are to be at 2030, and you can see altogether we're much higher than that and going up. And these are the reductions. This is all these charts are from that software, so I won't take too much time going through that. And then, yeah, this is the chart, EV adoption. So that's the chart saying EVs without green power purchasing on the left, which you don't see a lot going on. On the right, EVs with green power purchasing. Again, it's because getting the energy from fossil fuels or not is the big part in that situation. And there's all the strategies put together, which we'll dive into in more detail now. So the reduction strategies, these are all the things we went through for this phase 2 portion of LCAP and the results of what we got from all of them. So the ones you see highlighted obviously had the biggest impact. So green power purchasing is the one at the top. Commercial electrification and heat pumps is that number 2. Commercial solar. Green power purchasing for residents, residential electrification, residential solar, EV adoption, and then increased bike infrastructure we looked into just because we know that there's the overlay of Fayette and all that fun stuff that is another story. So the ones we highlighted are the ones we dove a little more into, the green power purchasing and the residential electrification. So I kind of touched on why residential electrification is important and how it kind of works with the green power purchasing. So those are the big ones that hit what Tim mentioned, those big energy uses, commercial and residential. Those are the big ones that we tackled, and these are the results. So the overall impact on the far right there, that is the amount of emissions that would be reduced by making that transition. So you can see 42% for commercial green power purchasing, 25 to 26 for residential, electrification of heat pumps 31, EV adoption 37. So those are the big ones. We looked at a couple more things as well, which is here. So it was a little tough with the software. The software only gave us so much. So the ConchiCab we tried to incorporate, composting, single-use plastics, things that we knew people were talking about in the borough. We tried to incorporate. The software didn't have that much data on our little square mile.
Justin, do you mind going back one slide?
Yeah.
So when you're talking about what the current state emissions are in 2022, where to get to have that percentage of reduction to meet some of the goals and objectives of this, what does that really mean? Does that mean converting 100 homes? You know, we, from a percentage of what our population is and the age of the homes in the borough and the fact that, you know, we're actually against knocking down old and bringing in new, what does that really look like?
The green power purchasing, or are we talking about the electrification?
The electrification.
Yeah, so in order, and I'll actually go back so in order to meet this slide, which is the dotted line again is where we want to be. To get this chart to be accurate, that is 100% of homes in the borough being electrified. So every house that has natural gas at it, every house that has oil, that being converted to some sort of electrification, whether that's central air, whether that's like my house, I have heat pumps and split systems, which are great for, you know, the townhomes, but it's not going to work for the row homes where they don't have real walls to throw those into. Yeah, it's a great question because it's challenging.
That's my point is this realistic? Like, are we setting realistic goals for these targets? Or do we need to readjust some thoughts on that because of the infrastructure of our town being majority of older homes that may not be easily retrofitted, and if they are retrofitted, it is going to be an expense on the residents.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of what the modeling is, so even the business as usual forecasting has reductions in these sectors because the model, the forecasting model, and we know that as time goes along, like the people aren't putting, in general, are not putting in new heating oil systems in their homes. So as people upgrade or change their homes, that they're going to gravitate towards the most economical source, which is not going to be heating oil probably, and as heat pumps and tax credits for things that are sustainable, like heat pumps, make those economical, that there's an expectation just in the baseline model because of the federal legislation that there will be reductions there. Your point is absolutely well taken, and that's why I would say that Justin and I were the most excited about the green power purchasing itself, because that doesn't have, the resident doesn't really have to do anything themselves. They don't have to change their home. It's about the source of the electricity that their home is using. So there are non-electrical sources, as Justin said, but a lot of, if everything that was electrified was coming from a sustainable source, we would be well on our way to hitting our goals, regardless of this retrofit idea in our
So we could
community.
potentially get there just by the normal.
It would be green power purchasing would be the biggest dent that you could possibly put. Gets us 43% down, but just going more direct into your question, I think the education of residents would be important, but you can, because most of the gas and oil is for heating. That could be just switching to an electric water heater, which is an extremely easy transition. So that's the main one. Air conditioning, your window unit's fine. And going back to green power purchasing, your window unit, you're just plugging it in. That's going to be sustainable as well. I think I'm an optimistic EAC member, so I think it is possible, but that is the path to answer your question. And that was really it. That chart is, so we can continue on this path if anyone else has.
So I have a question, or I'd like you to just kind of explain this a little bit more for the crowd, because I've been at each of the meetings. There's 3 little letters before the GPP. Can you explain what that community choice aggregate is?
So, CCA, Community Choice Aggregation, is a initiative in the state of Pennsylvania. So some states have community choice state laws that are community choice aggregation laws. Pennsylvania has community choice aggregation for boroughs. And one of the things that we've hoping to do in the next month or two, haven't been able to connect with them, is Lansdale Borough provides an electricity service to their residents. Now, this is not necessarily like a climate initiative for them, and I don't exactly appreciate the history there, but I believe the basis for them doing this is this state law that allows boroughs to essentially purchase power on behalf of the community and then sell it back to residents and businesses, which is what Lansdale Borough does. This law would essentially allow Conshohocken to do the same thing. It's just we purchase power and then sell it back to the residents. It's the essential idea, and that's why it's attractive, because as opposed to retrofitting a 100-year-old row home, it's much more administrative in nature. Now, there's obviously, legal analysis and different administrative aspects to it, but from a physical, practical standpoint, it is more practical because you're really just going to the source, literally, hydro, solar, wind, and purchasing that power.
I would think that would come under a utilities arm, like Lansdale has a utilities arm of their borough business. So that would be probably, and I guess from a legal perspective, you wouldn't want to put it into your normal operations. I would think that would be a utilities arm of some sort. Like, we'd have to really study how that could look,
And I'll just be 100% frank. Justin and I and the EAC are not coming to you today and saying, this is what we should do. We would definitely plan to explore this further before we make any sort of firm recommendations or put forward our thoughts on it. But that is something that's out there that's being explored in other communities in Pennsylvania. And like I said, it's done in other states. So the process is reasonably clear in the country, but a little underexplored in Pennsylvania, I'll say.
So basically, it's collaboratives. You're buying in big collaboratives and then hoping people flock to the collaborative.
Yeah, and there was a program in particular, like a part of CCA that we looked into that we were hoping would be Calvin's next step that he was doing now, which is diving into that program. That program is very new, and it's just been very difficult to communicate, frankly. So yeah, as what Tim said, this is like the light switch way to do it. Once it becomes more of an easy thing to do, which we're hoping to dive into in more detail. But another thing I did not mention is we looked at this as a whole. Any resident right now could call PECO and say we want 100% renewable energy. And that's what would be sent to their house. I believe one of our EAC members does that. So that's something I did want to hit on that I did not hit on in here, is that anyone can do this right now. This is just a way that the whole borough can tackle it at once.
And the idea there is buying in bulk, too. That's the advantage from a resident perspective, that there's cost savings. Frankly, whether you use it as a climate initiative or not, it could be cost savings to residents.
Have we gotten to a point where making that switch is comparable in price? Or would that only come from doing it in bulk?
I can't speak to if you would, as a resident, were to do it, and I think it fluctuates, just to be perfectly honest. One of the exciting things I think just happening in the country is that, we have a lot of solar that's coming online, and we also have a lot of battery storage. The problem with solar is the sun doesn't shine all day, obviously. So storing that energy is becoming much more economical. It's being rolled out. So it'll be, I think, in the coming years, even more realistic to be able to, it'll be cheaper and more realistic to be able to do that.
So what are your next steps with the project and program? You're looking at data, you're looking at options, you're looking at what could fit into the community. We've got basically a 10-year window to 2035. So what are the next steps for the EAC?
So I think that the number one is, I'll say two things. So the number one, when we entered the LCAP, the number one thing that we, as an EAC, were excited about doing is setting that baseline, getting the emissions data, because you can't improve what you haven't measured yet. So now we have the baseline. We have the opportunity potentially to come back at some point and remeasure and just see how we're doing as a community. Obviously, some of the data that we've gotten was from a time when the community was in a lot of transition from population and construction perspective. So it might actually make sense to do it again sooner rather than later and just see where things stand. But I think there's a number of similar programs to CCA that we were just, as Justin alluded to. We've worked with Calvin over the summer on a separate kind of LCAP extension where he's given us some additional potential programs that are, one is more solar in nature versus clean power writ large. So we have some more work to do, honestly, on studying those things. Because, again, we don't want to bring anything to the borough that's half-baked. We want to be able to answer your questions and answer your concerns. Really have our act together, basically, before we present anything.
Yeah, so we'll keep diving deeper, and we did make the relationship we have with Penn State now pretty much Brandy, who we've been working with, who's Calvin's professor. She was like, I can keep sending you students to keep doing more studies. So I told her I love that idea. Some free labor every summer. So our thought process is dive deeper. As he mentioned, the LCAP, now we can see exactly what we need to hit. So like EV adoption, I know the borough's already looking into that and moving on that. And then green power purchasing. So I think the next steps are us just diving deeper, finding more initiatives, finding more rabbit holes we can dive down, and then using Penn State students to do that for free.
I guess from my perspective, I think this is all good stuff. Then how do you tie this into what the state is doing, what the government is doing, and being able to optimize all of that? Because this is really grassroots, and you know, we want to be the wild, wild west and the frontier, the first frontier. But we need to also align with what state and the country is doing, and how do we pull all that together to make sure that timelines all match for everything.
And some of the other power purchasing programs could involve collaboration at the county level or other municipalities, which is again why we want to explore those in more detail. We've loosely looked at the IRA grants, which are issued at the county or the DVRPC level. So getting more information on those, and I think as an initial step, there's opportunities to educate residents on what's out there as far as how you can be greener and save money. I mean, we can certainly do that, and I have been doing that at our different events.
From a level setting perspective, are we from just, let's say, the county, are we leaders in this endeavor? Are we in the pack? Like, are we out in front of the pack?
So it's funny you asked. So I mentioned Lansdale Borough. So I reached out to them to want to understand their program more, even though it's not from a climate goal perspective that they set it up. And I don't know the history, but they were like, wow, you guys passed your Ready for 100 resolution in 2019. We're just looking at ours now. So I think our community has been a leader. And the other nice thing is that, and I don't know if we go back to the slide, our emissions in comparable communities is much lower. So we're starting from a good baseline.
I believe in your previous presentation, you did have how, like, per capita, we were a fraction of a lot of our neighboring. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of slides.
It's not on there. So yeah, our other slide. So I don't quote me on this, but I think we were about half of comparable communities, similar in size or population, which we're a walkable community. Attached homes are less energy intensive for heating and cooling, I think, than obviously a single family home. So we have the type of structures in our community and the type of living that is conducive to being already forward-looking and for climate change.
Yeah, I think it was only Lower Merion was the other municipality that did this, the LCAP and whatnot. They were more aggressive in the second phase, but I don't know how much of that they've actually implemented. From what we heard, it was kind of like a wishful report as opposed to like what we tried to make it a very solid, doable report.
Anyone else have any questions?
I just had a comment. I wanted to say thank you for coordinating. But seriously, working with you on the EAC, I know that you are putting in that extra time every week, putting in the extra time to make sure that this presentation was ready in front of for the rest of the council. So thank you very much. And I think I really appreciate how you've spread the goodwill of Conshohocken to an institution like Penn State, so much so that I've heard it myself firsthand that they want to keep working with us. So thank you very much for kind of cultivating that relationship.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I just have one comment from the admin perspective. All of your input as it related to the EV vehicles, I think, Ray, what are we on? We're like on our 4th purchase at this point. Kind of spearheading that concept and passing it on to the administration and giving us kind of the tools and the information that we could then position ourselves to be able to purchase those vehicles that were, right, within budget that council set for us. We could go off of our depreciation schedule and replace those older, inefficient vehicles with the EV vehicles that are, as you can see, make such an impact to the baseline. So thank you to the EAC for kind of giving us that push. And thank you to council for positioning us financially to be able to give our operations department the ability to purchase those vehicles that are meeting the resolution, the 100 resolution that we passed.
Remind me, are these vehicles a little more expensive than regular vehicles, or are they comparable now with all of what's out there?
Yeah, Ray, I don't know if you want to speak to that, but they are comparable.
The EV vehicles that we bought were about $55,000,
Yep.
which is the cost of the gas-powered Ford Explorer.
Yep.
So we didn't pay premium to be able to do this.
No, we did not. We were given the opportunity to kind of grasp what was on the market in terms of the EV situation and work off the depreciation schedule and meet the goals that you've set for us. So thank you.
Yeah, I think this is interesting stuff from a data perspective. Not a lot of people are data kind of driven or know how to interpret data and then make it actionable. And I think that's really what you're trying to do with Penn State, is to look at the data and figure out what is feasible in our community and to put out those recommendations. So I appreciate the time, because that's not easy stuff to really dig into. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great one. Thank you, Dan. All right, our next item on the agenda is another presentation, and this one is an exciting presentation for me, since it is a lot of it is in my ward. So Lauren Irizarry, our Director of Rec Services, is actually going to go over how we can address some of our growth and expansion for the future for our parks and recs and programming. So take it away, Lauren.
Thank you, Tina. Good evening, everyone. I'm here before you tonight to show the growth and success that the Recreation Department has seen over the last few years. The mission statement was set when I started here in 2018, but we are fully immersed in it, and our Recreation Services Department mission statement is to enhance the quality of life for all residents through physical, mental, cultural, social, and environmental development. We do believe that a vibrant borough is possible through people, parks, and programming. I bring up our mission statement because I think that we have met these goals in the last few years. Our programming has seen a significant increase in participation since 2018. Some of these programs include our basketball clinics, our kids care after school program, gymnastics, paint and play, purposeful play, Zumba, our in-house summer camp, some of our adult programs, including our bingo, line dance fusion, pickleball clinics, our active fitness, which is for our senior population. Our events have also seen significant increase in participation. We have three senior luncheons that include our Thanksgiving, holiday, and barbecue. They fill, they go on a wait list, and a lot of council is there, to see that happen. Same thing happens with our youth events, our Winter Wonderland, Easter egg, pumpkin painting. So much so that last year we had to open it up to our residents only first to allow them to register prior to anyone not living in the borough. And some of those filled with just residents. This fall, we will see new programs. You received our activity guide. Hopefully you got a chance to look through it. We will see new programming that includes flag football, cheer, Tai Chi, Colombian salsa. We are diving into trips, and our first will be a casino trip. Surprisingly, I love the program, but Golf Tots has seen the most registration since opening last week, and that will run. So I'm excited to have some new programming this fall that I do believe that our community can take advantage of. So that being said, I'm going to go into our facilities. The demand for recreation facilities has always been somewhat of an issue here in Conshohocken. We are a 1 square mile and are limited with our community center having 1 gymnasium, and then we're limited with some of our parks and fields. Sometimes it is what it is with parks and fields, but in terms of facilities, we are at our max between programming, leagues, long-term rentals that we work with, including Heyday Athletics that runs a lot of our adult programs. Indoors, it leaves minimal time. Sorry, I'm not ready for that slide yet. It leaves minimal time for members of the facility. So for instance, Mondays and Wednesdays, we have our men's program. We have our men's basketball league. It's going on right now. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have another basketball league through Heyday and volleyball league, and also work with Special Olympics. So Monday through Thursday, we are completely booked at night in our gym. Also while running programs in the multi-purpose room and other rooms, also at the Marywood Park House. This year, we are, I know that you saw, we are partnering with the Conshohocken Art League, and they are using the Marywood Park House. They always have. We are at our max for the Marywood Park House as well this fall. We believe, I'm partnering with the Art League this year for art classes. I believe that we are in a position where we are now able to help not only our department, but other local organizations that are trying to offer programming for our children and adults. Not only are we at our max for indoor facilities, but we're at our max for parks as well. The B fields, if all programs run this fall, we'll be at our max there. And we'll run our own programs and then have rentals after our own programming. So from 5 o'clock until 10 o'clock at night at the B field, it will be used. Prior to Sutcliffe Park getting renovated, the senior field, which is our only field there, Little League, Conshohocken baseball and softball now uses the other 3 fields. However, the skin infield, it was used every single day, Monday through Sunday. So we were at our max there. And I still have people asking me if, is there any chance that the work will be done by September? That won't happen, unfortunately, for them, but we will be back in, back in full swing, hopefully by the spring, if all goes, well and the weather cooperates. So, as I stated, we will be at our max if all programs run this fall facility-wise. It makes it hard to expand in the future with programming. We can run what we're able to run, but offering new things in the future may be an issue. As our community continues to grow, we'll be restricted. I want to talk a little bit about our summer day camp. As I said, we have seen an increase in participation. In 2019, we started our own in-house summer camp, and what that means is we hire a camp director, we hire our own counselors. Prior to that, I call them program providers. We had a program provider come in and sort of do all that. And where we didn't have as much control over what was happening, the quality of the program. And when I was hired, in 2018, I was hired under, the guys that we would start an in-house summer camp program. So in 2019, we did kickstart that program. We had approximately 9 campers per week. Then COVID hit in 2020, and we ran it safely, thank goodness, with about 5 campers per week. And now, fast forward to 2024, and we are at our max within 10 minutes of opening registration in January. And our max is 30 campers, and I will explain a little bit, why it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you come in the community center, our community center is still open at the time our summer camp runs, which means we still have programming going on. We still have pickleball. We still have members using the fitness center. We have members using the gym. We reserve the multipurpose room for our summer camp. We also use that little common area where the pool table is, and we set up tables for lunch. So we're limited to what we can set up there, and the interactions with the community are still there while our summer camp is in there. So it does make it a little difficult the way that basically our facility is set up. I want to give our current staff, our recreation supervisor, Charlie Alcorn, has taken over preparing for camp and planning camp. And then we have a summer camp director who is a teacher, and this is her second year as a summer camp director, and they have just taken it to the next level. And I do believe that we filled so quickly because of our staff and because of our current staff. The past 3 summers, the camp has been full with a wait list. So council and I have received requests to expand the summer camp program. When we started this summer camp program in 2019, the camp director and I at the time had decided on this, 30, this maximum of 30. We did evaluate this past year, and we do believe that we can increase that number to 40 and still be able to offer the same quality program that we're offering, because that is the goal. We can increase that number, but our goal is quality. And we do believe that, again, that is why we filled so quickly. I do hear feedback from parents, and that is what they say all the time. So with the increase in campers, we'll call for an additional hire for another counselor. We are also asking for an increase in hourly rate for new and current counselors in hopes of retaining those current counselors that we do have. As I mentioned, Colleen, our camp director, is a teacher. We also have another counselor that is a teacher. So we want to retain these people, and the new counselors that we bring in, again, we want that quality to be there as well. I'm now going to pivot a little bit and talk about our organizational structure. With the current success of our programs, events, facility and park usage, and anticipated growth of demographic in the borough, our recreational department structure needs to grow and adapt. We want to continue to offer the same high-quality services that we have been, and that won't be able to happen without quality employees. So this is our current organizational structure. It includes full 4-time employees, including myself, and then 5 part-time community center employees. And then some of our part-time staff underneath, which includes fitness instructors, program providers, our summer camp you can see. In the past couple of years, we've had issues finding reliable part-time employees. We, put out a job advertisement for an evening, for a weekend. The evening we didn't end up getting, and we ended up creating a full-time position, which was amazing. That Velez Jackson is our recreation coordinator, and she has been an amazing addition to our department and very much needed. Currently, we are full for our kids care program, which is our after-school care program. We only offer it to Conshohocken elementary school students. We are full again at 20. I know it doesn't sound like a lot. We do have some on a wait list. However, last year we were not able to hire another part-time employee for that. So it makes it hard when we're not getting these part-time employees when we're putting out for it to increase that number. We would like to open it up to more children, and we are still advertising. We put it out to educational departments. We put it on, it's called Handshake, which a lot of the college a lot of the college students use to find jobs. So we do have it on there.
Lauren, I'm sorry, I don't want to.
That's okay.
Have you lose your train of thought. Are you saying you have an open position that you can't find a candidate for?
Not currently. Okay. Not currently. We did fill the part-time evening with a full-time last year.
Okay.
We had to, pivot a little bit and make it a full-time position. I'm showing you the way our current structure is set up now because I'm going to get into some changes that are going to be made, and then future changes that we would like to see. So this is an immediate organizational structure that we have worked to put together. This is short-term goals. It's our 1 to 3 year plan. In this, we will ask for an additional full-time employee. So we would want 5 full-time employees. But with this structure, we're putting more of a structure to our current department based on current operations and forecasted growth. You'll see we have 2 recreation supervisors that are parallel to one another. This position will come, these 2 positions will come with defined responsibilities and a salary increase for current employees. So we'll put current employees into these positions and prepare them to further their careers and give them the necessary managerial tools, but also retain them as employees. We want to grow leaders inside of our organizational structure. And then later include the addition of 1 full-time employee. Currently, in the mornings, we have 1 part-time employee. That presents a problem. It presents a problem when this person, wants to take off, when this person gets sick. We have to move people around, shift people around. It's happening right now, tonight, as we speak. We had someone who got stuck in Florida, and, now my recreation supervisor is probably going to work over 15 hours today. He's going to come back in the morning because that person was supposed to be helping with camp, and he might work another 15-hour day because we have people on vacation. So the weekend, we do not currently have a full-time position there. So we only have 2 part-timers on the weekends, and basically no manager there or someone to take control. I check in, I go there a lot. I have a recreation supervisor check in, and we do have, Chris Jackson is his name. He works the weekends for us. He's a counselor at PW. He is great. Both of our staff on the weekends have been great for us, and we have been lucky with them. However, we would like to put someone that is in more of a position to make those decisions, on those days, to cover whatever our needs may be morning, evening, weekends. We do need that. Our staff is minimal right now.
And Lauren, just to clarify, when you're talking about can you go over the hours of operation for the community center? So everyone knows when we're open and when we're operating?
Sure. So we're open Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
And the staff that's working at the community center that's responsible for the programming, the fitness classes, the rentals, the parties, the events, everything that's happening inside the community center, the camps, the after-school care, the leagues, et cetera. They're also responsible as well for any programming, rentals, events that are happening at playgrounds, parks, fields, et
Correct.
cetera.
So currently at night, what happens is we have 2 staff members working at night, 1 full-time, 1 part-time. Velez will then leave the community center to go to the B field or Sutcliffe if, we need anything there.
And this is one individual who's leaving a facility that's fully programmed.
Correct.
And leaving and going to a field that is then programmed from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Correct.
Monday through Friday.
Sorry, there's been some noise there. Okay, so that is the immediate organizational structure that we are going to make changes to meet those goals. Here are some roles and responsibilities for the recreation supervisors, the 2 positions that we have. We will start to give them more responsibility, more of that, those managerial tools that I had discussed, to be point of contacts for community organizations, schedule field rentals, special events, coordinate indoor rentals. Currently, because of their roles and because what they're doing, I take on all of these roles as well. Okay. Anyone have any questions on the immediate? 1 to 3 years being 2024, or looking at this for calendar year 2025? So we will begin the immediate structure now in 2024. I am already starting to meet with our recreation manager and our recreation supervisor to go over responsibilities that I have to sort of get them acclimated and again, give them those necessary tools to then be successful. They'll be working under me, and then eventually they will be taking on some of those responsibilities themselves.
But the requests for the 1 FTE
Is 2020,
is
yeah.
included in your budget, which you'll all see in September for a 2025 start, correct?
Yeah, correct. So moving down the road for our long-term goals, this is a 3 to 5 year plan, and you can see our structure has changed. This structure will include the addition of 2 full-time employees. These positions and hires will be solely dependent on future growth of the department and facility capabilities. Growth and success markers will be developed along with proposed job descriptions prior to any additional recommended personnel changes being made. This time will allow, the 3 to 5 years will allow me to evaluate whether an assistant director position is needed or additional coordinators are needed based on the needs of the borough and the needs of the department. In recreation, needs and wants and community it's always changing. So it will give us this time to evaluate where we're at that point.
And when you're saying you're evaluating, I meet with you weekly, so I'm privy to this information. But for those that don't have the privilege of meeting with you every week, because I know that's what it is, a privilege, the growth that we're assessing is based off of the population growth, right?
Correct.
The population growth that we're expecting that's here, and also there's an additional percentage that's going to be coming, and how we meet the needs of that demographic, but also the increased demographic that we see in terms of the expansion of families and the expansion of children and the demands that we have received, specifically not just from the families, but also from the school district.
This is the first time that we're experiencing the interest and participation in, as Steph said, the demographic of elementary age kids, right? So our success typically has been in the babies, the 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds demographic, which means that they're young families, and then we've seen them move out, right? That's not happening any longer, and people are staying, and families are staying now, and now these children are getting older. So the age of our campers are about that 5 to 8-year-old range. That's where the bulk of our campers are.
Which also means that you're retaining the individuals that have participated in the programming at a younger age and
Yes.
retaining those families as members.
Yes.
Okay.
We have one child who has started from the time that he was 5, and he is now 10 or 11. So, yes, we are starting to see that we're retaining those families and members. This proposed structure provides for future professional growth within the department to retain the quality staff members that we currently have. These staff members are becoming immersed in and are buying into the borough operational culture, and that is what we want. This is a ladder for them, and currently we're not set up that way. So, I'll go back for a second. With the proposed organizational structure, there will be budgetary requests. As Steph said, you will see those requests. They're included in my personnel budget, and they will be presented to you in the September meeting. Okay. I do want to let you know that our department has met and exceeded anticipated revenue fees the last few years because of the increase in participation. So objectives for the future.
So the 3 to 5 year plan,
Yeah.
you're forecasting on existing data, but it looks like, based on what you say there, is you're going to be finding other markers to continue to hone in on that, so that when we get to that budget season, we would really know what it is. Maybe
Yes.
2, maybe 1, maybe none, kind of
Yes.
deal.
The ask is going to be there in the budget, because we need to. We have been lucky with our staff so far, and it is luck. Again, we have one staff member that opens in the morning. If she gets sick, we're scrambling. But if we had another person there, a full-time person, to cover that shift, it wouldn't be an issue. It wouldn't be that problem. We need it. So the ask is going to be there. We'll continue to evaluate what those positions look like and what their job responsibilities will include.
And just to jump in on that, so when we're talking about markers, if you're talking about an early morning addition that would be requested in 3 to 5 years, an example of a marker would be, we have, 20% of the population came in are within the 20 to 40 year age range, and there's a huge demand for the fitness center to be open at 6 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. In which case, then having one individual, if you're looking at industry standards as to how many people are in a facility utilizing it with a professional staff member on site, you start looking at ratios of safety, health, wellness, offerings. If we can't meet the demand of that demographic, then that department's not going to continue to grow, and we're not going to meet the service markers that we look at from an overall operational perspective. So those are things that we're going to be evaluating. If that marker is there, where that requirement would be there, it's not just going to be, we really need to have another person there. It's going to be the demand is there, and therefore, and we would like to program this or offer all of these different programs, and we just can't do that. We can't have one person in the building handling the entry procedures, which from an insurance and a liability perspective are necessary, because there's a whole facility management component to this that happens, and then nobody in the facility to manage the programming that's happening from that
And we
perspective.
do have early morning program.
We
have
do.
early morning
Right.
rentals.
If it grows, it's going to
Tuesday,
be an
Wednesday,
issue.
Thursday, and Friday.
Bless you.
7 a.m. So. Okay. Any other questions for the proposed? So just some objectives for the future. We're going to continue our successful programming that has been, seen an increase in participation in the past few years. We're going to offer new programming that fits the needs of the community. We are going to expand our summer day camp to allow for 10 more spaces. We're going to implement our proposed organization structure, or would like to, based on, council's feedback. And we're also going to evaluate our fee structures and membership rates.
You mentioned that the summer camp fills up within 10 minutes, and that it's capped currently at 30, right? How many actual applicants do you get before, like, within that first week of people of saying that camp is open, or registration's open?
Well, they have to register online for this.
Okay, so it locks it out.
Yes. So then we do go on a wait list. We were at about 11 or 12 each week on that wait list. And then we had more people calling in that didn't end up putting their name on the wait list once they heard how many we had.
Okay.
It's interesting, I kind of learned about that this year because I had resident feedback basically saying, hey, how do we look at things to know when to grow our programming for the residents? But they actually told me about the process where these parents sit right at the computer for that clock to hit that time to then get on there, and they're racing each other in typing.
I had
to get on the
parents
list.
contact me the day before, what time will it be open? Will it be open at midnight? We didn't create this, culture. I don't know how it, how this happened. It was just as surprising to us that in 10 minutes, if I'm not exaggerating, I actually may be underestimating it. It may have been 8 minutes, but it took 2 days last year. So we didn't know that this was going to happen. I told people it opens at 8 a.m. That way we can have control over it. So, we're looking at the computers, we're watching it. So we need to account for children that we accept registration weekly, but then we accept it for all 9 weeks. We increased this year. Last year we had 8 weeks. This year we had 9 weeks. So we need to account for those that register for all 9 weeks and then who register weekly. So we're on that computer and we're watching. And it was insane to see.
I heard about it from my neighbors who has 2 of yours. And she said she couldn't believe how quick everything filled up. They got in.
Us too.
So congratulations on
Thank you.
a
Job well
successful
done.
program.
Thank you.
Lauren, so I've seen our events grow and grow every year. So Easter egg hunt, I know I have to register as soon as you advertise. Halloween parades, sprinkler nights have been huge every year, bigger and bigger. Justin will back me up on this. I think my block alone has 4 pregnancies. We may have kids outnumbering adults on my block. If we're approaching capacity, is it fair to say we're going to have to be, to use Tina's word, strategic or creative to handle this next wave of kids coming through?
Yeah, I do have, some ideas about our events. Some of them, are Easter egg, and I hope that I won't be quoted on this. However, we could move to a bigger area, to a bigger park, to allow for more residents, to register for those events. I have no problem doing that. I think that, that probably would be a good idea. However, for the other events, we do indoor. We have started to split that, so we offer light refreshments and drinks, and we have started to offer that. I think you have seen that in the activity space area instead of all in the same room to allow for more people. We also have people that register and don't show up, because our events are free. So people see, oh, I know this fills, I'm gonna get in, and then, we do, if we know, I send out an email saying, if you're not attending, please let us know so that we can offer it to someone on the wait list, which we never get through the wait list. However, we are able to offer it to people that are waiting. So we'll have to get creative in other ways for our indoor events. But I think for the Easter egg hunt, we may be at a point in a few years where we would have to move it to a bigger park.
Anyone else? Questions, comments for Lauren?
Yeah, how are you working the Gaga pit?
That's just an amenity.
They have to bring their own ball? Okay.
Yeah, I saw two.
I don't know a lot about it, so I have to ask.
I had left for a couple hours today, and when I was leaving, I saw some girls playing for the first time on it today. I know when our guys were putting it together this morning, Frank was asked when it would be open by all the people at the park. So, and our camp is very excited.
Those campers are getting special treatment this week.
They are. Although it was water week and the water decided to join us literally, so.
Anyone else? Lauren, good presentation. Thank you for kind of bringing us to current state and then what the future could look like. So
Thank you, and I know you've received, some of the feedback, so I appreciate you being supportive, of us and explaining to our residents. Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is a presentation about our 2nd Avenue Veterans Park. And Ray will go through where we're at with the park.
So I'll do this in 2 parts. First, I'll talk about the what we're referring to as a park right now. What it'll be in the future, what it'll be described as a future is still, I think, up to a discussion. But I'll start with that, and then I'll talk about the area around it. There was one person who did email me prior to today's meeting that I want to address some of the things that their concern was, a resident. So we initially started this because, backtracking, we originally started this because we had some concerns about the roadway. The roadway was in bad condition. There were some core samples done after we did some initial work on the bottom end of the right side on this picture. And those samples showed that this road probably needed to, or not probably needed, it definitely needed to be reconstructed. So the other side, the left side, we were ready to start work on that. When we started to get some pricing, it seemed to be a situation that we didn't want to address. We had several cars that were damaged because of the condition of the roadway. There are some concerns about cars and coming down from 3rd Avenue on Fayette Street in that intersection. And as things are getting busier in that area and more pedestrian traffic and more commercial traffic in that area, there were concerns about potential incidents in that intersection. So you see a lot of the left side there was reconstructed by the borough crew, but the rest of it all has to be replaced. So some of the core samples that were done showed that the after you get through the asphalt, there's not much there. It's basically dirt. So we started to look into other options with that. I mean, prior to COVID, we've even discussed using this as a parking area, taking the center out and doing angled parking there. There was talk about a parking garage there. I think we've eliminated those needs, the parking needs. So we started looking at a different direction. None of which included reopening this road. It seemed to be an expensive proposition for a road that we have concerns. We've always had concerns about. So it started off with potentially just turning it into a park, and that's not an original idea. There's drawings from 20 years ago where people wanted to change this entire thing into a park, a veterans park, and basically making it a grass lot from top to bottom. So we looked at that. The angles become tougher. The grade is very steep there. So one of the things that we talked about was making it putting in a series of retaining walls so that people could sit there in flat areas. But then we had issues with handicapped accessibility from both ends, from the bottom end and the top end. So we looked at a concept of, we talked to some of the businesses in the area. A lot of the businesses want to move outside. They want to do things outside. One of the things that they've talked about was, if you've ever been to Phoenixville, what Phoenixville does with this First Friday kind of concept, where they have bands outside and they have a lot of entertainment outside. But that in general means closing the road completely, Fayette Street completely. Now, we do close Fayette Street. We do close a major road more than just about any municipality in our area. Brian Keaveney, our traffic engineer, is here. He could probably attest to that. But I've been told that we close our road just about as much, if not more, a state road, as anybody. We came up with this. Technically, not technically, but I think this amphitheater type of idea, if you want to put that, where people could actually come into that area from both directions, where they could come in from the top, and we would have a flat area at the top, which we potentially are hoping to make that area an accessible area and have a flat area where people could sit at the top. And the bottom area would be a lot of seating. And it would be incorporated into layers of seating rather than retaining walls. You would have levels of seating. Similar to, I guess it would be kind of an amphitheater kind of look. The only difference is that we would have grass in between rather than all concrete seating. So the bottom part of it, we figured that would be a place where, if the businesses which are amicable to this want to provide entertainment, or if we want to have an event and put our entertainment there, that's where it would be. So that's basically a stage, and it would have enough area and enough electrical capability in order to have a band there, or have someone playing guitar there, or an area of public seating with an area of public seating around it. That's where we ended up. Now, obviously, this is a conceptual drawing, and if you look at the top, that's the only retaining type of wall we have there. That would level it off of that would level the top off of Forest Street. We would also still provide access to that area with a U-shaped type of driveway. So you would be able to pull into 2nd Avenue, basically, for deliveries and packages and things like that for the two businesses that are there. You'd be able to pull in, go around, and exit. So the architect from Gilmore who did this rendering, this is what we kind of want it to look like. We're getting into something that we haven't really done before, because it's not a park. But it is a seating area. It's a seating area for the restaurants, the businesses, and just in general the people in town. We don't have anything like this in the borough. It seems to be a better use than what spending $1 million for reconstructing a road that we are very, very concerned about anyway, even if it was fully accessible and fully available to the public to use as a road. We probably have more concerns than we do now, because more people could potentially use it, and if they do potentially use it, we do have the issue at that intersection. So that's basically conceptually what we're looking at. Any questions about that?
Where's the statue going?
I'm sorry?
Where's the statue going?
So in the top portion of that, where we start seeing the retaining wall, it's not really a you mean the statue that was down below, that's where that would go. There's been some discussion with there's a few other monuments too that, again, the placement of monuments and things like that, you don't see here because we don't know. We know what we have one, but we potentially might have others that we would want to put in that location. But that's where that particular one would go. And there's plenty of room for that. Remember, where that section is now is very narrow and small. We're talking about opening it up considerably.
The flag poles up there also?
That's not really been discussed, but I assume that wouldn't be an issue. It's a veterans park, so it's a veterans memorial, put it that way. So it would be veteran centric. We would get as much the appearance of a veterans memorial as we can. Again, this is the beginning of a rendering. We actually are starting to, I think next week, we have a sit down with things like fencing and what that's going to look like, and benches and what that's going to look like, and we'll have a better idea as we go along with this.
I want to cut you off before you get too far. You mentioned about the monuments that were there. Where are they now?
Where are they stored now? Except they're stored in the 7th Avenue or 7th Avenue garage.
So they exist in their form. They're available to be used when it comes time.
Yes, there was two that there was the one at the bottom, and then there was the one at the top. The one at the top was very difficult to deal with, but the Public Works guys came up with a framing of it, so they framed it in wood using eye bolts and wood, and were able to tip it to the point where they were able to get it up at 7th Avenue, and it's sitting up at 7th Avenue just like it was at the...
Okay, the reason why I'm being specific, this is Ward 1, this is my ward, and I'm being asked quite often, and even insinuated, that they were destroyed or taken away and demolished, trashed. So they do exist, they are available. The intent is to bring them back when we're finished, is what you're saying.
Correct. If those things were demolished and trashed, you'd be the first one to know about it. Because it would have been done accidentally, it wouldn't have been done purposely. And I think, I can speak for myself, but I can also speak for some of the people in the public court. They took huge amount of care in taking those down and placing them, because they are very respectful of that.
And the intent would be also to keep this as a Veterans Memorial Park.
It would be veteran, I think what's throwing a lot of people off, and that was the concern of one of the people who sent me an email, was the word park. Right. And expressly, and I agree that, her concern was, well, who's going to use a park that's on a 14% grade? Yeah. And so we may have to look at that. Park might not be the term we want to use. Maybe we want to use it as some type of veterans memorial or some type of plaza.
I get it. It's interesting you're picking out a different word. So take the word park out of it for my question. Mm-hmm. It's going to stay Veterans Memorial.
It will be a veteran-centric area, yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was always the intention. The only thing that was removed and destroyed was the sign that said Veterans Way.
Okay.
That's it. And that was a street sign.
Right.
Excuse me, I just want to ask you a question. When I'm viewing this, are you saying to me it would still be used as veterans, whatever you're going to call it, park, whatever? But I don't see any way that, for example, disabled veterans, how are they maneuvered?
So if you can go to the picture with the So if you look at this from, just go to the, a regular picture of it. So the top end of this is a flat area. That's going to be even flatter. That's going to be the accessible part. Yes. And you'll be able to drive in. Somebody would be able to, who needed access, would be able to come out of a car and access the flat area, which well, you'll see on your screen right now. That's the area. And that area will have the monument in it. Now that's going to be further down. It's not going to be quite as high as it is right now. It's going to be further down. It's going to be large enough where somebody can sit there. There'll be benches. There'll be everything there. And that's the part that we want to make accessible. So the access for the accessibility won't be from Fayette Street side. It will be from the Forest Street side.
So it would be accessible, though, to people that are with canes and wheelchairs?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They would be.
Yes, so there's a percentage
Yes.
of grade that's allowed in the accessibility code, and we are going to try to maintain that as best we can throughout. So there'll be a parking area, there'll be away from the parking, or a parking, I shouldn't say a parking area, it'll be a drop-off area. So somebody can get dropped off, they can walk to the area, or to the memorial, and then there'll be seating and everything else there. So, okay. And I can tell you currently, well, as it was before, the monument was at the bottom end of this. There was really nothing accessible at that point. I mean, you had a grade of you have a grade going down Fayette Street and you had a grade going down 2nd Avenue. So there was really nothing there that made that accessible to anybody. This, we're going to try to get as close to current standards as we can and maybe exceed them.
This will be completed before 2025?
This will be completed in the 2026 area, depending on weather, depending on everything else. Cooperation. So, any questions on the area itself? Just to recap some of the other things, we're doing our best to remove the telephone poles out of that picture. So if you haven't had the opportunity to go there, you should probably take that opportunity and just stand there. That is a very scenic area. It's actually much more scenic when the leaves are off the trees. You can see everything behind it. Those trees in the center will be replaced. They'll be, I think we're taking them up to the B field, but they'll be replaced and moved to the side. So it'll be a clear shot. And then the telephone poles, we're working with Pico right now to have them removed and have the lines placed so it will be wide open. That's the objective, to get it as wide open as we can. I'm sorry? The cost of the current cost of the project? Yeah. The current cost of the project is about $2 million, which is less than what I actually thought it was, but it's a lot of money. So when you talk about, when we were talking about the original part of this and building up the retaining walls, every single one of those retaining walls would have cost, that would have probably been a $3 million project. So this is a less expensive version of that. But it's also something, everything that we're going to put into this, the hope is that this is going to be something that's easily maintained and will last for a very long time. The type of concrete that's used for the seating and everything else, we're going to make sure that it lasts for a long time. There's not going to be salt thrown on it. There's not going to be anything like that. So the hope is that, this is a 20 or 30 year, 40 year site, and there's potentially there will be potential to add to it too. If there's the success of it is that's the thing that you can't predict, but it's something that is appealing to the people around that area. We do a lot of activities here, like the mayor said, and I think we turn away probably as many people as we accept with activities here. But this is an opportunity to do something, during the week where we don't have to shut the road down. We can still have a band there, and we can still have people walk to those locations, drop people off from the top of those locations, and do it on a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, not necessarily just close it down for the weekend.
Can you speak to, so you've talked about how staying away from opening it back up as a road as it was. Can you talk about estimated cost? And I understand you haven't gone out and gotten estimates, but a guesstimate in your experience, if we said, you know what, don't do this, put it back how it was. Can you give me
Put it back how it was. We would never do that. So
Okay.
putting it back by how it was just means we'd have to maintain it all the time. So we would take it all down, reconstruct it. To give you an example, reconstructing an intersection right now is between $450,000, $750,000, just an intersection in town. So, yeah, to make that work correctly, along with some of the other things that are going to go there eventually, like mast arms and pedestrian crossings and everything else, $1 million, $1.5 million.
So you're tell me if I'm understanding you. You're saying that to make this a viable road, it would have to be completely reconstructed anyway.
Yeah, there was a lot of mistakes made. The memorial was put up with good intentions,
Right.
but the road part was not addressed as part of this. So the good intentions then became problematic for the next group.
Right.
And we're the next group. So when the memorial was first put there were things like, there was a ball, like 3 of these 4-foot balls. One of them ended up going down Fayette Street because they were put in with a steel bar, rebar, and it rotted because people would plow snow, and snow has salt, and it rotted away. So the intention was good, but the practicality of this is not. The memorial itself was falling apart. Not only the memorial was in good shape, but everything around it was coming apart. The steps were coming apart. So to get it to, if you just want a blacktop road, it's still going to be about $1 million. If you want a blacktop road with a memorial on it, you're looking at another $500,000.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about that part of it?
Do you put it out for bid?
It will, yes. It goes out to bid.
Do you submit it to veterans?
It goes out through our procurement process, which opens it up to everyone, Seems
like that's something they would be willing to work with you and form some sort of community partnership.
We're
To
required.
make sure that's done.
We're required to follow specific procurement requirements, so we have to go through a bidding process through a specific entity. Any company can bid on a project. They'll have the opportunity to see it. And yes, the hope is that they would absolutely take advantage of the opportunity to come work with us.
And we have, if you go to the memorial at Fifth Avenue, we have put a lot of time and effort to upgrade that memorial so that it's not like we didn't have a memorial in the Borough of Conshohocken. We do. And it's still used. And it's in very good shape. So that one we don't have anything to worry about. This one was an entirely different story.
Mike, can you jump in and just discuss the ordinance?
Yep, I can. So in terms of actually effectuating this vision, luckily the Borough Engineer's Office has determined that all the work needed to do this is going to occur within your existing right-of-way. Under the Borough Code, you're already allowed to, within your right-of-way, establish a public plaza. So what the ordinance I put together simply creates a one-way U street at the top, which matches the plan, and then establishes a plaza at the bottom. It continues to be a quote-unquote right-of-way of the borough, with a portion of it being used for solely pedestrian use. It ended up being much easier to accomplish than I think, certainly I thought it would be. So the ordinance that, that I prepared for you, I think is pretty straightforward. Relatively easy to do compared to everything else we've done.
And so the plan is that we're presenting the concept design along with proposed costs, along with the ordinance requirements that we'd have to proceed with in order to do this overall concept. This whole project is going to be included in your budget conversation next month. Because of the scope of this project, we wanted to give it special attention this evening so that when I'm presenting all of the numbers to you in September, you know the actual nitty-gritty that is included in this project. So that was the intent of this evening. So you can see the design and the concept, you understand the ordinance process, which would require public discussion, public advertisement, and then come back to you for consideration, would occur if and when council decides on what their capital budget is going to be for 2025. If this project is included, then we proceed with that part of the process. But again, tonight is just we've discussed this previously. We're now at a point where it has been, the scope and the design is concluded, and it'll be up for consideration as you work through all of the different priorities and initiatives that we've presented to you so far for consideration for 2025. Any other questions on Second Avenue?
Okay. Thank you, Ray.
All right, so I was just going to talk about the traffic. One of the things that the person had concerns, this is going to be more towards Alan, but one of the things that the person had concerns about was a lot of traffic going down the streets of Forest Street because of the road being closed. So what we're doing is we're going to have a traffic study done. We're going to put out counters along that road to see just to see how many cars are actually going down those streets. My guess is we're going to find a small amount, but we do have some historical data that we can compare to hopefully rectify any concerns when it comes to that. This is also part of an entire parking, directional signage, parking kind of thing that we're going to be doing within the next month, which will hopefully get people to the parking areas that they need to go, and it'll eliminate people from going into the neighborhoods. And that should rectify a lot of cars just driving around trying to find parking spaces because of signage. Some of the signage there is inadequate, and it was done by private entities. It wasn't done by the municipality. It was done part of land development years and years ago where they had to put up the signs, and they just don't match what we do anymore.
I'd like to just add, so I've had many conversations with people, asking, hey, what's going to happen? This is an eyesore, that kind of thing. What's the status, that whole range? Overwhelmingly positive feedback when I go through the details. So, I've asked for kind of a synopsis of a report, even the history. I really can only think of one, maybe two people that had anything negative to say about doing this project. So I encourage people, whether you're here or watching on TV, to reach out to me if you have more opinions or more thoughts. But so far, it's been positive.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And I think what you brought up, and I often have people ask about the family, the statue. And I said safe. I didn't know specifically where it was, but we're all going to go out of town on a rail if we ruin that. So.
Well, that's why we're making sure.
Right.
Well, I also think we've demonstrated with what we've done with the memorial at Fifth and Spring Mill that we are committed to celebrating our veterans and being.
That's a great point, absolutely.
Don't forget,
I only
hometown
received
hero.
one email, like I said, and I asked that person that if they wanted to have a meeting at the Borough Hall about this, that they certainly could have a meeting and I could go over all the details with them. But I think I've went over most of the major concerns. That's pretty much all I can do with that.
Okay, thank you.
Just anxious to see it done.
Yeah, that's,
That's the feedback I'm getting. I'm just
Save
anxious
that
to
for
see.
September.
Yeah.
yeah, yesterday. Thank you very much, Ray.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along, under land use matters, public hearings and ordinances, we've got a discussion on amending our group home provisions in our current zoning ordinance. Mr. Peters, would you like to talk to us about the
Sure.
proposed amendment?
Sure. So your current zoning ordinance, where it identifies and defines group homes, would appear to suggest that group homes for individuals that are protected by the Fair Housing Act are permitted by right. And under the Fair Housing Act, that would be an appropriate treatment of group homes, again, for individuals protected by the Fair Housing Act. However, when you go to the individual sections of your zoning ordinance that deal with uses, group homes are only permitted by special exception. So although the definition of group homes literally says they're permitted for individuals protected by the Fair Housing Act, there's a conflict in your zoning ordinance in the later provisions, which when this was updated maybe 10 years ago, probably just got missed, frankly. That has resulted in your zoning officer appropriately applying the ordinance so that she applies the stricter of the two, which means you are having individuals come in before your zoning hearing board making Fair Housing Act arguments where that is not the appropriate venue. So what this amendment would do is fix that issue so that if there is a group home that's coming in that's protected by the Fair Housing Act, they would address that with administration and not with the zoning hearing board. Because again, the zoning hearing board does not have authority to administer the Fair Housing Act. It's not within their scope of work. If there is a group home that comes in for individuals not protected by the Fair Housing Act, they would still go through the zoning hearing board process. So this fixes an inconsistency in your zoning ordinance and hopefully will remove an issue that the zoning hearing board is facing, which is they're facing arguments that they do not have the ability to adjudicate as it stands currently. So that is the amendment. It's not really entitled to change anything aside from fixing what appears to have been an error 10 years ago.
Any questions from council or the mayor? So this is a no vote tonight. This will go through the normal ordinance process where we will discuss it, post it.
Goes to the planning commission, comes back before you. There'll be a lot of it.
This one's actually a lengthier process than usual because of the type of revision. So it's going to be back in front of you on the 21st for advertisement. It'll go to planning commission in September if authorized to advertise, if it moves forward. And then it would be back in front of you for a public hearing in October, and then it would be back on an agenda for consideration. So yes, this is the discussion to start that very lengthy public process.
In the meantime, are we open to any lawsuits because of how it stands?
Yeah, really good question, Alan. Currently, you only have one application for a group home. It has just so happened that the way that application has worked itself out, it's been continued for reasons having nothing to do with the borough. It is currently scheduled to go before the zoning hearing board in August. I am going to, just so council is aware, inform that applicant that you are discussing this zoning amendment and suggest that they request a continuance to allow this amendment to take place. That way, we're not creating an inconsistency or opening ourselves up to any liability.
Okay.
Mike?
Yeah.
Does that include the one that's up the street from me?
The one that's already been approved? It would. So they're currently operating under a or a special exception. If they were to come back into the borough after this passed, theoretically they could operate without that special exception. But as it stands today, they're obligated under the special exception.
Okay, any other questions? All right, hearing none, we'll move to the next agenda item, which is considering approving Resolution 2024-14, which is an extension of the temporary no parking area on First Avenue at the intersection of Harry Street and outdoor dining for the temporary basis in that area of Daniel's Restaurant. Any questions on what we're asking in the extension?
How long is that extension going to be for?
It'll be an additional 90 days.
So that would take us through November? Or
You got it,
Or take-
Stace, yeah.
Have we had many concerns regarding coming off of Harry on 21st, regarding not being able to see the traffic?
We have not. I know that Councilmember Fry received one earlier this week, which was forwarded to the attention of Borough Council. But other than that, no. Administration has not received any additional concerns.
And why would we give them this if they have seating on the pavement and they have a full restaurant?
The owner, Kurt, was here, and I believe that when he presented to council, he provided the reasoning as to why his business in particular was asking for it. At that point in time, council was supportive of it. It passed unanimously. So this is an extension of what was already previously approved.
can I ask Chief Lennon if there's been any traffic incidents since that's gone in?
There have been no traffic incidents or no complaints.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing no other questions, do I have a motion to approve a 90-day extension?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2024-14, applying the extension of temporary no parking area on First Avenue for 90 additional days. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider reappointing B. Bergvall and Company, P.C., to conduct the borough's annual financial audit for the fiscal years ending 2024, 2025, and 2026. Steph, do you want to talk about why?
B. Bergvall has been our auditor since 2016. They have been instrumental, not only back in 2015, 2016, working with our finance consultant to really revitalize the borough's financial records, but they also worked hand in hand with us to finalize a capital asset list, which is updated on an annual basis. They helped create and draft entire capital asset policy. We transitioned to GASB standards of government-wide financial statements, and were instrumental in completing an OPEB valuation, which led to an OPEB trust, which now is helping to provide the financial stability for the borough in the future as it pertains to post-employment benefits. So while they are our auditor, and they have been for many, many years, they're also a partner in terms of ensuring that all of the latest GASB standards when it comes to a municipality are being followed. We just also, this past year, met all of the standards. You all received the audit. There were no findings in the audit. We finished it. I will tell you that the audit process the last 2 years has been exhausting. I guess that's what you want from your auditor. But they did a deep dive, and there were no findings, so that's great. The audit's actually posted on the borough website and accessible for the residents if they want to take a look. But B. Bergvall has done a great job. They are tough, they are hard, they hold us accountable, and because of that, we have hit milestones, and they've ensured that we've hit those milestones. So they're an auditor, but they're also a partner. It is our recommendation that they are reappointed. Their fees are reasonable in terms of the fiscal impact for the 2024 financials, 2025 and 2026. They're holding the fee at $23,500 for year one, and then there's just a $500 annual increase for year two and year three. So you're really only looking at a $1,000 increase over a 3-year period.
Any other questions related to B. Bergville?
And this is not for a vote, so if there is any other discussion or consideration, or anyone, any resident takes a look at the audit and they have any questions over the next 2 weeks, it will be back on the agenda for the 21st. So feel free to give me a call, or any of your council members, and then they can pass it on to me directly. We'll get you an answer.
Thank you for that
Thank you.
information. Next item on the agenda is consider approving the issuance of notice of intent to award a bid for the Green Light Go project. Mr. Keaveney, would you mind coming up and talking about the traffic solution and what this really means?
Certainly. So to give some context to what we're talking about, the borough had applied for and received 4 separate grants to modernize the traffic signals on Elm Street, being West Elm and Colwell, West Elm and Maple, West Elm and Oak, as well as East Elm and Harry. So the rest of the signals along Fayette Street were recently modernized through a few different means. A lot of it was PennDOT funding. So these 4 intersections on Elm Street, the borough did receive a grant amount to facilitate the full replacement of all the equipment there. The equipment there, including the mast arms, the signals, the push pedestrian facilities, push buttons, fairly old, particularly the mast arms, which do not meet, while they met standards when they were installed, they don't meet the current standard that PennDOT is looking to try and upgrade to. We did prepare the 4 separate bid packages, all the design, permitting, et cetera, and we just received bids. Unfortunately, they came in higher than we had expected. Overall, when we look at the way the grant program is situated, the borough had to commit 20% of the cost as a local match, and then PennDOT would provide the rest of the money. Although that budget number from PennDOT is capped, so if the bids come in over, it's on the local sponsor to absorb that cost, and that's where we stand on these projects. So when we look at the original 20% match and the bids that had come in, we're really looking at the borough putting up a 30% match, so to speak, to make up that difference. Now, 2 of the intersections came in very close to target, and 2 of them were much higher. So we've already been talking to PennDOT about ways to scale back some of the work at those intersections, because there's what I would classify as very important primary work that needs to be done, and then there's some secondary work that can be done now at these prices. The prices probably will only get more expensive in the future, but that work could be deferred if necessary to get closer to our targeted budget amount. So that's my overall summary. I can certainly go into details on the actual bid numbers, where they were high, where they were off, and the 4 intersections in particular, but the current state of the grants is that the grant ends in the May-June timeframe of 2025. So the decision to move forward is a little bit time sensitive from the standpoint that we'd have to get the contractor started ordering materials and things like that. So, it's certainly within the borough's purview to award, 1, 2, 3, or all 4, or any variation thereof.
So just to jump in with Brian and talk about figures quickly, the grant was for $1.5 million. So it was a significant grant that was received from PennDOT directly. As Brian said, we had originally budgeted for that 20% match. So we had figured in your budget for this year is roughly $380,000. That's what we have to cover our portion of this project. What we're looking at now is having to allocate an additional $275,000 to the project in order for it to move forward based off the bid numbers that came in. The only advantage we have right now in terms of looking at the dollars is because the project was bid, we have the bids in. Tonight we're considering a notice of intent to the contractor, if you're comfortable allocating those additional dollars, is that the majority of the project and the construction is actually going to happen in 2025.
Correct.
And therefore, you have the budget money in 2024. That'll get rolled over into 2025. And therefore, in your budget conversation for 2025, you'll be rolling in those dollars, so those won't be new dollars, but you'll be looking at an additional $275,000 to complete this project, which, as Brian indicated, it's important to those are very important intersections in the borough, and we need to make sure, especially when we're talking about infrastructure and traffic management and traffic flow, that we're making that a priority. So you'll see in your budget meeting next month the full wish list of items that we believe are initiatives that have come from the elected officials, that have come from your professionals, that have come from your directors. We will be prioritizing them. Because this is time sensitive in terms of getting the notice of intent out, I'm letting you know that this extra $275,000 is going to be a priority item in your capital for 2025. So I've looked at the numbers, and you'll get the numbers next month. This is going to be prioritized. I think I was going back and forth with the mayor today. We're saying we want to do it all. We'd love to do it all. But we're going to have to pick. I asked Brian to come here tonight so that you knew how serious it was that we should be picking this one and allocating those extra funds, which you have available in your capital budget. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but.
No, I think you addressed it. The only thing I would add is I would expect, given where we are in the year, we'll probably only see about, 1/3 of the borough's expense in this calendar year, and about 2/3 probably in 2025, just as it reflects the numbers. The only thing I would add is that I would think if the work's not done now, it would still eventually need to be done. So when you look at the pricing we're getting on things, the one thing I forgot to mention is when we did talk to PennDOT, you're not the only municipality in this situation. So a lot of the bids statewide are coming in anywhere from 10 to 25% above what they were estimated at a year or two ago. And so it's a variety of factors, but I don't think the work's going to be any cheaper if we were to forgo the grant now and try to apply for another larger grant next year with no guarantee, and the work may still be, even more expensive at that point.
So if we decided to defer, we would basically be forfeiting the $1.5 million that we were awarded and may or may not in the future get awarded dollars for the project, and then have to.
Right. And it could be another 30% above the cost. I mean, not the grant, but the cost, yeah.
Right, and if the grant's higher, that means we've got to match more, which then, plus the overage makes it more money.
Brian, tell us what that sinking of all those lights on Fayette and Elm actually will do for the traffic and the traffic patterns. What is the intention of this type of project?
Well, so this project will, fundamentally, it's upgrading the infrastructure. So it's really the foundations, the steel mast arms that are there. Those are fairly, they have some age to them. It will upgrade to the newest signal heads and back plates, the newest pedestrian signals with countdown timers, the audible pedestrian signals, which are, required for ADA compliancy. We also have budgeted in here a fair amount of sidewalk repair on the corners and ADA ramps, which, that's part of the work that PennDOT had agreed, was probably okay as is, could be deferred to a certain point in the future, but it's still would need to be redone eventually. Once the signals are upgraded, they'll also have a much more modernized detection system, which would make the efficiency of the signals just naturally better, meaning that as they detect vehicles on the side streets or don't detect vehicles, that dictates how the green time is allocated on the main street, like West
Moving
Elm.
the cars a little bit differently than
It should move cars a little bit more efficiently, I guess is the simple way to put it. But it's similar to work we've already done on Fayette Street. So some of the signals on Fayette Street used to be what we call pre-timed. They would just change whether there's traffic there or not. Now with the modernized detection system, it's more efficient that you'll maintain green on the main street if there's no traffic on the side street, or if there's very little traffic, it should change back to the main street fairly quickly. So all those factors are involved in these four intersections.
I have a question. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the signal at Elm and Fayette is one of those smart signals that it changes green lights based on traffic patterns at like rush hours?
Yeah,
Are these going to be included in that, or is that separate?
It's separate. So
Okay.
so these signals were not, from the standpoint of high volume, it didn't really meet the
Okay.
threshold of needing that level of
Okay.
system. So Fayette and Elm and
And
Oak are
yes.
adaptive as
Okay,
well as
that's-
First.
Okay, thank you.
Ellen, any thoughts? It's your ward.
No, you actually took my question.
Sorry.
So-
Great minds think alike.
You're in trouble.
One of these is in my ward.
What's that? Some of
One
it
of
is.
the
That's
one of
right.
them is. No, I was. You mentioned the updating pedestrian traffic signals, which I think is really important, especially as more people have moved into along the riverside. So that way, it would help facilitate them walking up Fayette Street,
Up the hill.
up the hill.
Any other questions for Brian?
Brian, just because we have the EAC here with us, if I'm not mistaken, isn't there an environmental component to Green Light Go because there's less idling cars?
So there is. Specifically, that's not part of the way they pick those grants. That's more what I would call the CMAQ grant. That's what we use on Fayette Street, so the congestion mitigation and air quality improvement. So when we can show a measurable improvement in traffic flow, it does have an environmentally positive, whether it's, a small percentage or a larger percentage, but it does have a positive impact.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, sir, you're out of the hot seat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time.
All right, hearing no other questions, what we're looking for this evening is a motion to approve the issuance of notice of intent to award a bid for Green Light Go project to Lenny Electric Corporation with the borough's total contribution equating to an amount that will not exceed $651,778.05.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving the financial security escrow release number 1 for Matson Mill project in the amount of $1,676,777.90. And I'm not going to say it again. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. That's a big number. Next item is to discuss the RFP for engineering services for the 2023 CDBG curb ramp project. Steph, could you just talk about that for us?
Yes, we have applied for the 2023 CDBG grant. We did receive that grant money. We are allocating those federal funds to the installation of curb ramps. Those curb ramps are going to be at the intersection of Hallowell Street between East 9th and East 10th, Jones Street between East 11th and East 12th, Jones Street between East 10th and East 11th, and then 4 ramps at the intersection of East Hector and Jones Street. In order to utilize the federal funds for the installation of curb ramps, we have to meet procurement requirements, and therefore we have generated an RFP for engineering services. And this evening, we are discussing this matter, and then on your August 21st agenda, we will be requesting that council consider allowing administration to advertise the RFP for the engineering services, and then, of course, there will be a construction contract once the RFPs come in and are assessed, and they come back in front of council for appointment.
Any questions related to the CBDG? Okay. As Steph said, no vote on this, just
No vote, just making reiterating one more time that these are federal funds. There's actually really no cost to the borough at all for this program, and you'll have some advertising costs that are associated with the RFP, but other than that, it's grant dollars.
Next item, consider approving Resolution 2024-15, establishing insurance requirements for the food vendors. So we had this, I think, presented to us in the past.
It actually was presented to council. The ordinance amendment was approved. In that ordinance, there are specific insurance requirements that the food vendors have to provide to the borough as part of the application process, and that is in the ordinance. It's set by resolution. The insurance requirements are directly from your insurance carrier, Divot, and therefore this evening we would ask that you consider approving the resolution which will establish the insurance requirements for the ordinance and will remain on file with the application.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, could I have a motion to approve Resolution 2024-15, establishing the insurance requirements for food vendors?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving a block party request for the 200 block of East 8th Avenue. This, I believe, is a block party that has happened for several years.
Yeah, this is the third year of the event. It is scheduled to take place on Saturday, September 7th. This is a block party, so this is not a request for a fee waiver. The way we handle block party requests is that they submit a special event application. It gets circulated to our department heads. The department heads evaluate the requests on the permit form. If there are no concerns, then it's put in front of council for approval. They are requesting that the street be shut down, and therefore we will drop off barricades in order to do so and place no parking signs. But there are no changes to the event from previous years. The event was approved in previous years by council. There's no fee waiver, so there's no fiscal impact. And we have not received any complaints or issues from the event being held in the past. So this evening, if you're inclined, would be to approve the request contingent upon them completing all permit requirements, which would include the certificate of insurance.
Any questions on the block party? Hearing no questions, do I have a motion to approve the block party request for 200 block of East 8th Avenue contingent upon the final review and approval?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving a tuition reimbursement for Officer Glasgow for the 2024 summer semester. This is a CBA item.
Correct.
We would be approving reimbursement in the amount of $1,984.73. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
I would just like to point out, he did get an A+.
Ooh. Look at that. We got them going.
That one up on the fridge.
Next item on the agenda, consider approving Resolution 2024-16, appointing a delegate for the Montgomery County Tax Collection Committee. So what we're looking for is to appoint Stephanie Checo as the borough's delegate for the Montgomery County Tax Collection Committee. Any questions or concerns? Hearing no questions or concerns, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2024-16, appointing Stephanie Checo as the delegate for the Montgomery County Tax Collection Committee?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving change order number 1 for the 2024 Liquid Fuels Road Program.
So the change order specifically is to balance quantities from the project. So there were specific areas where there were asphalt quantities that did not need to be utilized, and they were repurposed to other areas within the borough that needed attention. So we were able to take those quantities and rebalance them. It's a no-cost change order, but for PennDOT requirements, once we have to submit all the documentation for the liquid fuels program, we have to have all of our paperwork properly documented. And therefore, it's no cost, but the change order does need approval from Borough Council.
So what you just said, in little words, is we had extra blacktop. That extra blacktop, instead of going back to the company, actually went maybe in holes in other roadways?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, hearing no questions, do I have a motion to approve change order number 1 for the 2024 Liquid Fuels Road Program?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion in 2 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. I'm getting punchy. Next item on the agenda, consider approving payment certificate number 2 for the 2024 Liquid Fuels Program, Road Program, in the amount of $350,426.02. Do I have a motion to approve payment or any questions?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second, and no questions. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda. Mr. Mayor, it's our turn.
The fun stuff.
Council matters.
So we had a world-famous salsa dancer right in Marywood Park last week. The Hispanic Heritage Association, which is based right here in Conshohocken, provided this event, and we learned about salsa history, and there was dancing and audience participation. It was a lot of fun. Thomas didn't make it till the end, but I'm sure it ended just fine. So thank you to Jackie Rocco, of course, Dom Rocco, for continuing these really wonderful series of events, and we'll look out for the next one for sure. We also had yesterday our Coffee with the Cop event at brunch. It was great. Brunch were great hosts, and we got to hang out with some of the officers and answer some questions. So it was great, and we'll keep running these. I think I know Chief Lennon would agree with me that the more the public interacts with us, the better it is for our community. So we'll keep running these. And then along the same lines, we're having our annual free community shredding event on September 28th. It will be at Caldwell Banker Realty. It's the last year they're going to be with us, so we'll be changing locations next year. But we'll have one last event here, free of charge, and we will be accepting canned food and monetary donations for Colonial Neighborhood Council. So we hope to see everyone on Saturday, the 28th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. That's it for me.
Ms. Allen, do you have anything to say?
I do. I want to thank our stormwater management team, Dan and Will and Jamie, as well as Frank. We had a concern with some of our stormwater drains, and I got to see them firsthand in action, go down there and check things out, pulling the manhole covers off. So they did a fantastic job, and everything was good to go, and I appreciated their time that they took to check that for us and the resident. So thank you.
Kingsley?
I want to wish good luck to the East 8th Avenue for their block party, because last year the tree exploded on that block, and the day of the party, and our wonderful Public Works people got everything up and running beautifully. So, good luck, everybody.
Ms. Barton?
Yeah, I just want to say kudos to the guys, because they've been working hard cleaning up trees and debris, and hopefully it won't get any worse for a while. But thanks, I know the citizens really appreciate it.
Mr. Cern? Can't twirl my tongue, sorry.
Yes, weather permitting, the Conchi Classic Pro Bike Race is going to be August 18th. It's going to be all through Ward, my ward, your ward, and it's going to be on a bit of Fayette Street. So it's, I think I'm not sure when the last bike race in Conshohocken was, but I have seen the pictures of them. When I moved here in 2016, people used to talk about it, so I'm very excited for this to come back to the community.
Where does it start?
What?
Where does it start?
Isn't the starting line
Fayette.
on First?
On First?
First and Fayette, maybe.
Thank you.
There is information on the event that will be on the website. We have also hand-delivered the event details along with the event map to any resident within the race course. That there was one letter that was hand-delivered, and there will be an updated letter that will be hand-delivered beginning. We were going to do it the end of this week, but the weather is not cooperating. So the beginning of next week, anyone within that vicinity of the race course itself will get another hand-delivered letter. The information will also be on the website. All of the event information, QCW is the entity that is actually hosting the bike race, so their website has the information as well. There are professional races. There are also community races, so we'll urge any residents, kids, families that want to participate, they need to go to that QCW site and actually register for the races. Should be a great day. We're looking forward to it. It's the first time we're going to host it, so we are, hoping for the best, and we'll work very hard to make sure it's successful, and then we'll reassess once it's complete.
Steph, in the letter or on our website, does it go over residents who either have an emergency and need to get out, or who have to go to work, those types of things?
Yes.
And how they actually do that?
Yep, there are specific arteries that you'll be able to utilize to actually exit the raceway, and the letter goes into those specifics.
Okay, perfect.
As well as a diagram that shows you where to go.
Okay. All right, great. Will there be people, staff, in and around to help folks?
Yes, it is what we call a blackout day for borough administration, police, fire, all our emergency management staff. So there will be staff from the borough that are all over the race course itself and in the borough, and then there are also the QCW company volunteers that will be staged throughout the race course as well. So it will be heavily
So if
manned.
any resident has issues during the race, they grab somebody that
Someone who has a yellow vest on.
And that person can help them figure out whatever their challenge is.
Yep.
Great. Thanks.
Welcome.
Mr. Shimeleski.
Nothing from me, thank you.
All right. And I just want to thank all of the staff, the folks that are working outside in this really tough heat. I work in a hospital. You're seeing a lot of heat-related injuries, so please make sure that we are giving our folks plenty of water and keeping them cool, because body temperatures do rise and cause bad things to happen. So that's all we all have? Public comment. Public comment time. So come on up to.
Okay, thank you.
You have the floor. Would you mind just telling us your name so we know who you
My
are?
name is Liz Ben. I live at Marshall Lee Towers, and I'm calling you for in front of you with two things, and I need your advice on how I go about doing it. Number one, we have 5 spaces in the front of Marshall Lee Towers where we can park. And what's been happening is that they are occupied by people that go to the retail stores. It can be UPS, some of the other places, and a lot of them are not available. What I'm asking is, we have one of them designated for the handicap. The reason is because I know for me personally, not only am I a social strategist and an author, and in addition to that, I do a lot of work with the library. I have to carry large boxes and books into the main entrance. But I have to park way down and try to go in, and it's caused me, and I have disability, it's caused me problems. And I wanted to know if we could have one that would be designated saying just for the disabled. Like I said, I already have something showing that I'm disabled. That will help with that, to alleviate that problem. The other thing is, excuse me, let me go back. There's one other thing. All you have to do is replace the sign. There's nothing else. It's just a sign that's saying for parking. So it would just be a matter of saying it's for disabled, for that particular thing. The second thing is that we've been having a lot of problems with the Conshohocken cab. We have people that are disabled. We have the seniors, longevous adults.
and we have people that are blind, which are challenged, and other mental health challenges, and they're having problems, and just to the point that no one wants to even bother with it. I personally did take the responsibility for talking with them. I went on the routes with them and whatever, and I was informed that it's not working the way that they thought it should work. They said sometimes they only have one person every 2 days for the whole time that they're there. So I kept looking into it, and I wanted to know when they did the last need analysis. They said it was several years ago. I asked them, did they have anyone from the Marshall Lee Towers to sit in so we could have some input? And they said no, but they are having problems. The problem is when you're disabled and you have to walk around the corner with bags and your walkers and whatever, trying to cart that back to where you did the entrance, it doesn't work. They have it where the SEPTA stops now. That's one. The second thing was they do not provide services on, I think it's Sunday. They don't provide services on Sundays and Mondays. So it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. 11 o'clock. Most people in Marshall Lee Towers, I've noticed, are up 6 and 7 o'clock going out, trying to shop and do things and come back. So that wasn't being considered. The other thing was they stop it now they're stopping it at an early hour, and so that won't work. I personally go into Philadelphia often, and I know when I'm coming out with bags and books and whatever, they're nowhere to be seen. It doesn't work. The app is not appropriate. They have it on the side when you come in from Norristown, not when you come from Center City. And I said, I don't quite understand that. They didn't know why, but that's what is occurring. So I'm asking for you for the help for the two things, because we really do need it. And we need people to be conscious of and aware of, and I'm also a veteran, to be conscious of things that are going on as far as the longevous adults, seniors, the disabled, and the veterans. We have, and you mentioned something about group homes. I don't know what that meant because I don't know that. But 2 weeks ago, I was downstairs. I go down to try to get books and things out of the car to take back because I write early in the morning. Anyway, I saw these people with a cart coming in, and they were homeless, pushing them into Marshall Lee Towers. They came in on the side. And I said, what is this? I didn't quite understand what was going on. What they do is they come in on the side late at night, and they stay in there. It frightened me. I called the police, and they said, oh, well, if they don't leave, then give us a call later. And that was it. I wanted to know, do we have a place for the homeless to go? I didn't know that late at night they go into the bathrooms there, and they'll stay there. They're on the going up and down the stairs. They're there, and nobody seems to know what to do or where they're going, and it's been going on for several years. So I'm asking for the borough to come in and to help with things that are going on there that no one seems to have an answer for.
I thought the doors were locked. Aren't the doors locked to Lee Tower?
Am I doing what?
Aren't the doors locked?
The side, what happens is we got veterans that are there, and a lot of times, and I kept thinking, why is that door unlocked? They'll go outside because there's no smoking. That's the other thing, no smoking in Marshall Lee Towers. But they'll go out in this yard, and they'll go out there at night, and then they come back. And a lot of them, I didn't know this. I'm just going by what I've seen. They leave the door open so that the people that are homeless, they come in. They come in there at night, and they're on the side, on the stores, on the stairs, and they go in the men's and women's bathroom on the first floor. It just so happens when I was there, I'm going where's this person going? But they were pushing the cart and wherever. the maintenance, I guess, I don't know who did it, but there was a door open, so I don't know if they stayed in there that night or not. But all I did was I went right back to the second floor, called the police, and they said, well, if they don't leave or whatever, then give us a call. That's the same thing that happens when I've seen people parking in the parking spaces where we are. I'll ask the police, something, are they allowed to park there? And no one, I mean, it's the people that live there, they don't have anywhere to go, and they said, well, it's the borough, so we can't give them a ticket, and so have to go and find a parking space some other place. And I don't think you were aware of it, but I wanted to make sure because we do need the help.
Thank you, Ms. Bin, for bringing that to our attention. Would you mind giving your name and information
Yes, I
to
called.
Brittany, and
And Chris-
maybe we can work on some of these administrative things
I'll give you
related
the
to,
information that you need.
yeah,
Okay.
related to the parking. And how does that work? I know for residents who are homeowners, they can apply for special handicap parking spaces. How does that work with Marshall Lee Towers?
Well, Marshall Lee Towers is part of the Montgomery County Housing Authority, so I'll have to contact Joel Johnson, who's the executive director, and walk through some of these items. That's not the property of the borough, it's the property of the county, so I'll work with him to kind of disseminate, who's responsible for who. And I know Joel very well, so I'll have a conversation with him to decipher how we work that out. Then anything that is specific from the borough perspective, we'll evaluate it and do what we can.
Okay, Chief. I think the chief has.
There is permit parking available for residents in front of Marshall Towers.
There's a park, yeah, that's what I'm saying, they occupy it. It's occupied, the
Those
people,
are residents of Marshall Towers.
yes, but people that go to the retails on Fayette, they go in and park there. People that are like Federal Express, UPS, all of them, they park, so there's no parking space at times. But I'm not asking about just the 5. I'm just saying one designated for the disabled. That's the 5 spaces, the one closest to the entrance for the person that's disabled. That's what I'm asking.
If we do that, then we take one of those spaces away from a resident that lives there, and most of the residents that live there.
No, I'm just saying, but it would be the disabled for the residents that live there. We've got disabled veterans. I'm a veteran.
Most of the residents that live there are disabled, so that's why there's 5 permit parking spots out front already.
They're for people that are not disabled. The people that utilize that right now are not disabled.
Are you sure?
I know. I'm the oldest one there, believe me, and I know there's a veteran that's there who has a Jeep, but the others are not.
I think Ms. Bin, what's best is I will get a hold of Joel, we'll discuss it administratively, and then I will follow up with you to
Okay.
determine next steps,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay, I appreciate it. Just tell me what to do and how to go about it.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional public comment this evening? Okay, hearing no additional public comment, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.